It's a sunny June afternoon in the bustling Grand Square of Kraków, Poland, where I'm 2 weeks into a father and son trip back to my dad's home country. I'm feeding coins into a payphone, quickly looking at my watch, trying to figure out what time it is back at home in British Columbia. After a few rings, my wife answers the phone, sounding a little worse for wear. "Hi, Jody. How are you?" She's had a late night after a bit of a bender. "So why the late night?" Yesterday, my wife had met with a young lady who had recently given birth and decided she wasn't ready to be a mother. Of course, Jody made the appointment, met with Natasha, and the meeting went very well. So Jody decided to meet with a girlfriend and have a drink. Well, maybe 6 or 7. The next morning, the adoption worker called to give us the great news that now Natasha wanted to meet me. My head spins. I want to cry out with joy, but what would the people in the square think? Jody and I had been waiting since late 1990 to hear any news about adopting. We knew we could not conceive children on our own due to the fact that Jody had had ovarian cancer. When we first moved to Surrey, we went to the Ministry of Adoption, as we called it, to commence the adoption process. After many meetings, interviews, and questions answered, our adoption dossier was created. We were told there were many other interested couples, and into the lengthy queue we went. We went on with our lives, finding work, a place to live, making new friends, and enjoying all that West Coast living had to offer. Back to Poland. The day before my dad and I flew back to Canada, I remember the incredible excitement of Pope John Paul II visiting Kraków in Poland, the country of his birth. We had to cut our trip short in order for me to be interviewed by Natasha. I had been interviewed for a job before. Heck, I'd even been interviewed to be on a game show called Jackpot. But how crazy was it to about to be interviewed by someone who held in her hands the power of giving us a baby or not? I could hardly sleep my last night in Kraków. I was a bundle of nervous energy on the flights back to Canada, spending time at the airport in Toronto, returning luggage carts to the corral, and collecting quarters. I must have made $8. Diaper money, woo! I arrived back in Vancouver, thoroughly exhausted, yet so excited to see Jody. Apparently, I was more exhausted than I thought because I couldn't find my wife, even though she was standing 10 feet in front of me. What threw me off was her new hair color, platinum blonde. We hugged and kissed, found my luggage, and in a flurry of conversation drove home, where I tried to have a nap prior to meeting Natasha later that day. After a brief nap, Jody drove us to the ministry office in Port Moody. I remember meeting Natasha for the first time. She was quiet, a bit nervous, and taller than me, just like Jody. For our wedding photos, a step stool or ladder was my best friend. Natasha asked me why I wanted to adopt her son. I told her that I had a lot of love to share, and I wanted to be the best dad that I could be. My father had always looked after our family, and I wanted to do the same for mine. He was a great role model to me. I asked Natasha why she wanted to have us adopt her son. She told us that recently a girlfriend of hers had had a baby, and it took a lot of time and commitment. I asked Natasha if she was prepared to live with this decision for the rest of her life, and Jody gives me a swift kick in the shins. My interview was to go for an hour, and it goes for twice that time. We leave, and I feel so good about how the interview was that I feel that this is meant to happen. When we get home, I pass out for the next 12 hours plus. Now we have to wait to hear from Natasha on her decision on whose life is going to be changed forever. I have a lot of nervous energy to get out, and because I don't have any luggage carts to return, I walk the dogs. A lot. 2 days later, our adoption worker calls and gives us the great news that Natasha has chosen us. We imagine what is about to happen after a 7-year wait and only 9 days after Jody's initial interview. When couples are having the baby, they have 9 months to prepare. We only had 9 days. Friends have helped us out with any baby stuff that they had. And what we didn't get from friends, we went to the store and got all the necessities over that weekend. Our arranged day to see our son for the first time and to bring him home is Monday, June 16th, 1997, the day after Father's Day. I have to wait 364 days for my first Father's Day. Well worth the wait. We drive to the foster home in Maple Ridge where our son is being cared for. It's a lovely home on a wooded lot, replete with a pond with 2 swans in the front yard, a much warmer environment than going to a hospital maternity ward and seeing our son behind a pane of glass. We arrive with diapers ready. We have a lovely chat with the foster mom, and she informs us that our son has been eating and sleeping well, but he does have some diaper rash. We have our first chance to see our son in one of the bedrooms in a crib. He is so gorgeous. Although he is sleeping, we are so excited that we can't help but hug and kiss him and us. Back in the living room, we sit down with Natasha, who arrived after us. The foster mom brings our son out, gives him to Natasha so she can say her goodbyes. That sequence will be forever etched in my mind as Natasha gently kisses her son on the forehead and passes him on to Jody. We are super excited, but realize that we cannot lose our minds in respect to Natasha. This must be both joyous and heartbreaking for her, and we remain mindful of that fact. This is one of the most unselfish acts that a human being can ever do. We thank the foster mom, say goodbye to Natasha, strap our son into his car seat, and drive home, where we prepare for the next chapter of our lives. Our adoption worker calls us the next day to remind us of some information that keeps us on pins and needles for some time. The birth mom now has 3 months to decide if she would like her son back. The birth father has 6 months to decide, but every indication from Natasha is that he left once he found out that Natasha was pregnant. We mark the calendar, circling September 16th as the date that Natasha's decision is final. We had pondered some names for our son, whittling it down to possibly Connor. Connor K sounds a bit hard with those double consonants, offering my 2 cents. During my father and son trip to Poland, my dad had given me some family history. On my dad's side, a few centuries back, his family had come from a clan named Griff. When I told Jody that story, a light bulb went off, and we decided on naming our son Griffin. What a fantastic name. Jody added Andrew as his middle name because that was the tradition on her father's side. So we welcomed Griffin Andrew K. It all came full circle back in the summer of 2012. My family and I went to Poland for 3 weeks. How cool was it to take Jody and Griffin to the square in Krakow and show them where I had made my call 15 years earlier.